And there's a definition I really like. This is from a book called Coactive Coaching by Laura Whitworth and Karen and Henry Kimsey-House and Philip Sandel. They said, values are not morals or principles. Values are the qualities of a life lived fully from the inside out. And when we honor our values, it's as if, when we honor our values, we feel this internal rightness. It's as if each value produces its own special tone. When we live our values, the various tones create a unique harmony. And when we're not living our values, there is dissonance. Again, that's from Coactive Coaching. So our values are the things that are most important to us, our highest priorities, our most deeply held driving forces, and we naturally gravitate towards them, prompted from within and not by our needs or wants. And when we honor them, we feel like we're living in harmony. When our actions are out of alignment with our values, it causes anxiety and stress and unhappiness. And many people, we often don't know what our values are. We can't really live in alignment with them until we know what they are. So the first step, of course, is to discover what we truly value. Another point to make is that it's important to be clear that there's really not any judgment about a person's values per se. Remember this definition I mentioned just a moment ago from Coactive Coaching. Values aren't morals or principles. They're personal expressions of you and what's important to you. So let's say, for example, if my 5 core values, let's say they were achievement and growth and autonomy and wealth and competition. And let's say your 5 core values were spirituality and responsibility and making a difference and beauty and integrity. Though it could be tempting, it's really not your place in this example to judge my values as morally right or wrong. Believe it or not, it is possible to live that first set of values, which don't happen to be mine, but they are the values of a client of mine who is just a fantastic person, to live that set of values in a way that contributes a great deal of joy and happiness and goodness to the world. So while values themselves are not moral or immoral, that isn't to say I can justify committing immoral acts because I'm living in alignment with my values. It's the context in which they're used is very, very important. So just because I might value achievement and wealth and competition, for example, it doesn't justify me withholding information from my clients that would make it more likely for me to win a sales contest, for example. The context, of course, is very important, and universal principles do have to be applied regardless of what our values are. So the key is that no matter what your values are, if you're living in alignment with universal principles that govern right and wrong behavior, and you're living in alignment with your values, you're going to feel connected to your core. You're going to be doing the things that make you feel the most purposeful and the most alive. And just like the quote I recited to you in the beginning of the call, when we're doing what makes us feel alive and purposeful, we're making a difference, and we're inspiring others to live in alignment with their values and their purpose too. So that is what I mean by values. That's what I'm talking about. Now the second point I want to make tonight is, why is it so important, vitally important, to be clear about our values? And then some of the dangers that we can face when we stray from them. First of all, values help us to self-manage. Again, if you listen to Bruce Rosenstein's call, he was speaking about Peter Drucker's concepts for self-management. And the very first point underneath self-management is to know yourself. When I teach leadership, I always teach that we must first know ourselves. And to know ourselves, we must know our values. We must know our strengths. We must know our work habits. We can't very well lead others if we aren't first aware of ourselves and what's important to us. It's also values also are related to deciding what you're going to contribute to your work and to the world. Drucker was a very big proponent of making a difference, making the world a better place. So secondly, values help us spend time wisely. There really is a certain urgency to identifying your most important values and learning to live in alignment with them, and that's because life is finite. It's short, and values help us make good decisions about how to spend our precious time. So that's an important reason, too. And related to that, values help us make great decisions. One of the greatest benefits of understanding your values is that you can then use them to make your decisions. Decisions that are based on your values, such as deciding what your goals are for the year or deciding what type of job to take, if you base those decisions on your values, you're going to have a much better chance of being right and staying right. Those decisions will feel right for the long term. If your decisions are based on these temporary wants and needs, they're not as likely to have a long-lasting benefit. And another reason to make sure that we're clear about our values and live in alignment with them is that living in alignment with our values makes us feel good and therefore helps us to do good. When we feel good, we're much more likely to do good. There's lots of research that proves this. Sonia Lubomirsky's book, The How of Happiness, she was one of the featured presenters this week. Marcy Shimoff wrote a book called Happy for No Reason. All of Marcus Buckingham's work on concentrating on your strengths. There's so much information out there. Peter Drucker's work that reinforces this concept that when we're feeling good and we're feeling connected to what makes us feel good, we're going to do good. And not just necessarily that larger, greater good for the world, but also be more productive in our jobs, produce more for our companies, be better leaders, be better family members, better friends, all those kinds of things. So if we don't know what our values are, it's much harder to actively live in alignment with them. We'll go about doing what we think we're supposed to be doing, and suddenly we find ourselves burned out and grumpy and so forth because we aren't doing enough of the things that are most important to us, or we aren't behaving in ways that feel the most right to us. If we haven't identified our values, we might not know why we feel lousy. We just know that we do. So once we identify them, when we start to feel lousy, that's the first place that we can check. We can say to ourselves, I'm feeling really irritable or burned out this week or this month. Wonder how I'm doing at living in alignment with my values lately. It's kind of time for me to check in. So here's an example from my own life. My own personal number one value is family happiness. My husband and I have a 14-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter, and the happiness and harmony of our family unit is very important to me. And because I run my company virtually and office out of my home, it's very easy, and I'm sure many of you can relate because that is so common anymore, it's very easy for work to spill into family time. And when I start to feel that sense of lousiness that I talked about, that's when I know it's time to check the family meter. How much time have I really spent with my family this week? Did we play a game together? Did we talk about something funny or read together or sing together? Did we watch American Idol together? That's a big thing that my kids and I like to do. Depending on what my answer is, I can make adjustments so I start to live in alignment with that value of family happiness, and I start to feel better. And, of course, my family starts to feel better too.